Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about medlars. Now, I've done several different videos on medlar trees and harvested them. We've made some stuff out of them. It's always been a little bit difficult. Here in Utah, we have a shorter growing season, and it seems like the medlars do not ripen completely before we get deep freezes. Now, we've hit temperatures in the mid-teens, and the last few days have stayed below freezing for most of the time. Now we've gotten a warm-up. This is mid-December, and we've gotten a warm-up. We're actually hitting 50 degrees today, which is very rare and unusual. There's just some sort of warm front that has come through, melted all the snow, and I'm going to try and harvest the medlars now and see how they do. Now, last year, I was kind of sick and tired of having medlars that wouldn't ripen. And when I say ripen, medlars are a lot like persimmons, where when you pick them off the tree, you have to let them blett, which means you have to let them soften in either a cool, dark place or a warm, light place. And we're going to do a little more research and make sure that we're actually trying to blett them properly. But they would not blett in the prior years. I've tried harvesting them in October, and I've tried harvesting them in November, and it's just too early for them. So now it's mid-December, and I think it's going to be a little bit better. The leaves have fallen off the trees. Some of the medlars are starting to fall off the trees. And last year, as I started to say, last year I actually left half of the medlars on the tree and started tasting them in February. They had bledded on the tree, there were several on the ground, and they were actually really quite delicious in February. So let's try it in December this year, see if we can get a harvest, and then if we can actually get them to blett properly, we're going to show you what I can make out of them. Now, I am just finishing off the medlar jelly that turned out to be more like medlar candy because I processed it too long, and it is really quite delicious. I can't wait to taste it when it's actually a jelly consistency. The other thing that I make is medlar cheese, and that was absolutely delicious, so I really liked that too. So let's look at the medlar tree. We'll talk a little bit about medlars, growing them in Utah Zone 7, and what you can expect. So this is what the tree looks like right now. The leaves are still falling. We've got a ton of them on the ground. By the time we hit Thanksgiving, which is generally speaking, and it held true this year, the time where we start getting deep freezes, snow comes and stays on the ground. We had snow on the ground until yesterday. Still have a few patches over there, but we've had snow on the ground since Thanksgiving. Now, medlars are very cold hardy. This one has been in the ground here in Utah. It's northern Utah Zone 7. We've seen Zone 6 winters, and we've actually seen a Zone 5 winter where it got below 0 degrees with this tree. And it's done just fine. So they're very hardy. They have gorgeous flowers in the spring, and let me show you a picture of the flowers. The flowers are large, very tropical looking. They've got large, beautiful leaves. And if you don't get an early fall deep freeze, the leaves turn a brilliant and beautiful yellow. And I've only had them turn yellow 2 times in the 15 years that I've had this tree. So this is a tree that needs a longer growing season to properly go through its cycle. So now this is what the fruit looks like. They're kind of ugly. And in English literature, they reference them as dog's arse, because that's kind of what they look like. But they are really tasty when they're properly bletted. Now, we do have some on the ground. Let me see if I can find them over here. There's a couple on the ground right here, and they have not started bletting yet. And when I say blett, they're just going to be very soft, and the texture is going to be the texture of sandy mud. So I don't really like the texture a lot. It's when you process them that they taste really good. There's a lot of heavy seeds inside. There's more seeds than flesh, but the tree produces enough of them that you can make quite a bit of jelly out of these. So now I'm just going to get to the business of harvesting them. We'll see how much we get, and then once I finished harvesting them, I'll show you how I blett them and where I blett them. We'll do a little bit more research to make sure I'm doing it properly. I've tried bletting them in warm, dark areas, and I've tried bletting them in cool, dark areas, but I may have read that they need more light to blett, so we may try it that way this year. Maybe we'll try half and half. But anyway, let's get harvesting and see how many we get. So I finished harvesting the medlar, and I have just about a full container of medlars, and I'll show you what those look like in just a minute. But I wanted to go over a little more of what I've had to do to successfully grow a medlar here in Utah in Zone 7. And that is basically almost nothing. Now, medlars are in the rose family, or apple family, and they need to be treated about the same way. They're quite drought tolerant. Mine only gets watered once every 2 weeks, along with the rest of these plants. And once a month, I'll go through all of my trees and do a deep soak with my hose. They don't like a lot of fertilizer. They don't need a lot of fertilizer. And when they're young, they are prone a little bit to splitting if they have a west or south facing exposure. So it's best to wrap the trunks while they're young. But once they get older, I do prune my medlar like I prune an apple tree. Although if you'll notice the shape, let me show you the shape here. The shape is more of an open center than a modified leader or central leader like regular apple trees. I like to keep my trees a little bit shorter. I do prune this for height. And this is about the height that I like to keep it because it's in my front yard and does have more space. But it does get pruned pretty heavily every year, kind of like an apple tree does. And these are the medlars that I got, that I harvested. I'm absolutely not going to be able to use all of them. I'll probably offer them to some local people here if they want to try them out, and then process what I think I can use. We also cleaned up the rest of the leaves that fell because I really do like a cleaner yard over the winter. And those went into my compost pile. So this looks a lot better. We're going to have a lot less bad insects that winter over. The good insects can winter over in other areas. Let me show you one that I did find. This little guy right here is a praying mantis sac, and it was up in the tree. So what I have done is I'm going to nestle it down in this grass so that it can be protected over the winter, and this grass will stay until spring. So I did a little research, and there's not a lot about exactly how to blett medlars, but they did say to put the calyx side, that's the flower side, down. So this is the calyx. So you put that side down. We're going to try this on a rack like this, but in the past years I've had them dry out before they bletted. So we're going to try it on a rack like this now that they hopefully are fully ripe. We're going to try some on a towel here, and then I also have some up in my grow room on my grow racks. Now I turned the light off and put a towel down in there, so we'll see which way works best. So this garage will be dark and cool. The grow room will be lighter and warm. So once I figure out whether or not these are going to blett properly, I will do another video and we will try and do medlar cheese and medlar jelly. Now I'll link another video above on the last time that I did medlar cheese and jelly, which I said turned out really good. It tasted really good, but I got a comment on that video that said that everything that I did was wrong, which probably was. I did a lot of things to try to overcome the fact that most of the medlars did not blett properly, and it turned out. So this time we're going to see if we can do it properly. And I would love to have any comments below if you have any idea of how to blett medlars properly, if you've grown them in the United States, where you live, and how well they've done. And if you actually like the medlar jelly, if you've had a chance to make it. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.